Welcome to another episode of the Fireproof Career Podcast, the podcast for the high performers, the high achievers who are ready to excel, create the career they love, the life they love, but without the burnout. So if you're ready to fireproof your career from burnout, let's go. Today, we are talking about sales. Now, before all you corporate professionals think this is not for me, actually, you'll be very surprised. Part of creating a burnout-free lifestyle, part of fireproofing your career, is to create a strong professional and personal brand and be able to sell yourself and not sell yourself short. And today we have James Newell from Clear Sales Messages. And James Newell created Clear Sales Messages in 2017 as he transitioned from a successful career in the corporate sales environment to finding and following his passion running his own sales consultancy. And I tell you firsthand, if there's one thing James can do, it's create a clear sales message. Having supplied £600 million worth of vehicles to his clients over 12 years and having never missed a sales target in that time, James sought to distill the secrets that contribute to his performance and to use this to train others to do the same. Working with small to medium-sized businesses in the UK, it became apparent very quickly that many businesses required a defined value proposition, mine included, or sales message. By creating a means for company and salespeople to communicate more clearly, James was able to transform their performance and also understand just how he performed so well. It turns out that selling all comes down to the quality of your communication. So as I said, we're talking sales today, but it's not just for the entrepreneurs, it's also for the high flyers in the corporate world. James, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I thought you were going to say if there's one thing he can do, it's talk, but that's all right.
That is evident.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Thank you ever so much. So I thought I'd give a little context into how our paths crossed before we begin. So I was on a business accelerator program, and James, you delivered an incredible conversation workshop. I say conversation because it always feels like it's very informal, informative, but still really impactful. So it wasn't a workshop, it genuinely was a conversation on how to sell. And I thought actually this is really important when it does come to preventing burnout for entrepreneurs as well as corporate professionals. We underestimate the value of having a strong brand that precedes us. So a brand that can communicate what we do in a clear and concise way before we even step into the room. And so I thought it'd be great to have you here so we can learn the secrets. But firstly, we want to learn the secrets. It's in the bio. We want to know.
Push the expectation bar up. Okay, here we go.
But before we begin, James, far too many people tend to describe themselves or introduce themselves by what they do. And that's only a fraction of our story. So James, without telling us what you do, who are you and what's one fact about you?
Oh, that is interesting. Who am I? Well, I have to go by societal labels. So I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a son. But I'm just somebody who's just really fascinated by creating the best life possible for myself and the most kind of safe and secure and peaceful life. And that's mainly, we'll get into this in a second, but that's mainly down to kind of early experiences in my life and things that happened to me. It's really given me that kind of drive to be a good role model for my kids and things like that. One thing that a lot of people don't know about me, I don't know how long we got to talk, but in 2004, I survived the Asian tsunami. So I was in a bungalow on Phi Phi Island that got engulfed in water. I started to actually drown. And I survived, obviously, it's okay. But the bungalow collapsed, I popped out and I was saved. But yeah, it's a hell of a story.
That is so interesting. I'm so glad you survived. And what a story.
Me too.
Yeah, right. That's incredible. Nowhere near as cool, but I got airlifted out by Harriet jumper by the British Embassy.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, Hurricane Wilma that became Hurricane Katrina when I was in Mexico. So,
amazing.
Right?
I didn't get a free helicopter ride, so you win.
Win some, lose some. Oh, wow, that is really incredible. So, James, I think it's really interesting how people's life stories can help to shape and curate their career paths in particular. So I'd love to know more about what is it in your life that helped shape what you do today?
Well, having a really treacherous kind of early part of my life led me to where I am today. So my child was kind of very unsafe, and I had a parent that sadly kind of suffered with alcoholism and depression. And when I was 19, he actually took his own life and he killed himself. And that really defined everything for me. My life then became about setting a good role model for my kids when I had them, and also trying to make sure that I didn't follow that path and that I did things that I wanted to do with my life. And so how I came to selling is quite funny. So I didn't go to university. I got to my A levels and then I had to get a job because we needed the money. Basically, we single parent homes. I needed to get to work straight away. And I reasoned that if I worked with cars, because I was really into cars, if I worked with cars, at least I'd be happy. And then I could work out the money bit from there. Okay. So I started working with cars. And then eventually somebody offered me a sales role. And just as you spent like the start of this podcast just excusing the fact that I'm in sales because it's such a dirty thing, right? We have to be careful how we talk about it. I was so resistant. I was like, I'm not a salesperson. I can't do this. And I very nearly didn't take the role. But then they told me what it paid. And I took the role.
That's a great incentive. Great incentive.
It was a good incentive, yeah. And I found out, like, it's hard. I always feel a bit arrogant when I say this, but I just found out I was just quite naturally good at it because it is just about communication. It's about being really good with people and just putting them first and thinking about them and doing all these like very, very basic things. It's not about always be closing and all the stuff you might have seen. It's really, really not. So I kind of fell into it and resisted it. And then I realized, actually, yeah, I'm actually quite good at this. Excuse me. And then after a while, I wanted to work for myself. And somebody said, after a while, 12 years. So I joined this sales role. I was supposed to be there for 6 months while I worked out what I wanted to do when I grew up. And 12 years later, I was still there in the same role. And obviously I'd progressed, et cetera, et cetera. But I wanted to work for myself. And somebody said to me, why don't you just teach people how to sell? Just distill the methodology that you've got and teach people. And that's how it came to be. And I essentially wanted just to turn selling into like a paint by numbers, unemotional, just a transactional methodology of this is how you do it. And it's as simple as that. And that's what I've dedicated my life to do. And as a result of that, I've found my place in the world, I call it. So I've found something that I'm really good at. I enjoy doing it. I'm celebrated for it. I'm setting a good example for my kids. And yeah, I get to talk to lovely people like you and do really cool things every day. So I'm happy.
Celebrating you. I love your LinkedIn video. So that's a little shout out to James's LinkedIn. Definitely worth following just to get those sort of tidbits and make selling less icky. Because let's be honest, a lot of people find it really difficult to talk about themselves. I don't have that issue. I'm not going to lie to you, but in a different way. I think mostly because when I talk about my story, it's a story. I don't feel like I'm emotionally invested in it, so I can talk about that knowing that I'm helping others. So I guess what I'm doing is more storytelling. So I'm selling the message, selling the outcome for people. But I think it's when it comes to the transactional part, when it really does feel like a sales.
Yeah. Let's talk about money now. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what we're here for. Yeah.
And I like money. I don't understand, but I love what I do. I feel like being paid for it. But for some reason, when you bring the two together, I don't know if it's a British thing. I don't know if it's a whole to be around. What is it, James? Talk to us quickly. What is it?
It's not just a British thing. British people, we have got this polite thing going on. I call it the price of polite. It's like when you're eating terrible food in a restaurant, they come out, is it any good? Oh, it's great, thanks. And we would never actually say the truth because we're too polite. So it's not just a British thing, although I think we have got it worse. It's this emotional kind of invested thing where we've been taught through social media, TV, film, etc. There are no positive role models for sales and selling at all. All the rich people in films are nasty people, pretty much, like 99.9% of them. And all this, and if you Google salesman, woman, team, whatever, look at the image search that comes up, you'll see this kind of caricature of, hey, how you doing? Sign here and all this kind of stuff. There's no good role models. So we feel like we have to replicate that behavior in order to do that and to sell. And in replicating that behavior, we're not being ourselves and we don't really know what we're doing. And we're being unconfident about it. And it all just falls apart. And that's where you get these people who go, so you're probably wondering what we charge. And they just take on this entirely different kind of energy and persona when it comes to selling, rather than just being like this. Say, okay, Subira, I think I can help you. Would it be okay if I talked you through that? Great. Let me just explain what I think we could do for you, and just having a conversation with money at the end. And that's how I describe selling. It's a conversation with money at the end. And we might never get to the money, and that's okay. But I'm not worked up about trying to pitch you and close you. I'm just here to learn about you and see if I can help you. And if I can, then we'll talk about what I could possibly do. And that's it. But it's a huge mess, basically. And that's what I help people with. Huge mess.
I actually just something you said about there being no role models, because I rebuke that in the sense that you are one. Hearing me about sales completely transformed, because when I didn't choose to be an entrepreneur. The entrepreneurial life chose me. I was actually trying to get back into the corporate world and found it impossible and acquired disability, and was like, hey, I don't like being broke, and hey, I think I've stumbled onto something that actually I'm good at: preventing burnout, sustainable success. Yeah. And so when I first started out, I literally just go onto LinkedIn, which I'd never utilized before, going, hey, I think, I've got something you might be interested in. Let's have a conversation. And it was literally offering people the C-suites. I went straight in, James. I went straight into
that's it.
Across the investment and savings industry, like, hey, you've missed out a whole pool of talent. We should have a conversation. And they were so receptive. So the CIOs, CEOs that I would never normally talk to when I worked in the investment industry were so open to having a conversation over coffee. So this was beginning of 2020 before national lockdown. So we were literally meeting up in the city, having these coffees, having these conversations. And that's how I started my entrepreneurial journey, how I got my first client, which was Channel 4. And then somewhere along the line, thank you, I decided that I was going to listen to like these mentors who are great at selling. And that's when it became a little not salesy, but slimy. That's not fair to say synonymous, but slimy and a little sharkish in the approach. And I felt different. I felt off. And then after attending your workshop and hearing you say it in such terms is actually a conversation, and it may or may not get to money at the end, I felt more aligned with myself again. And I went back to the root of what I enjoy doing, meeting people, having conversations. So with that being said, I'm sure in the 12 years, for you to get to this point of being the role model in sales, and honestly, because I enjoy talking to you, the level of ethics you have around just how you carry yourself, you deliver your message, it really is a clear sales message.
I lucked out with that name, I can tell you. Totally lucked out. It wasn't even contrived. So I had a couple of choices. I had sales message clarity and clear sales message, and I was driving along. And I asked my wife, and she's right about everything, whether or not she watches it or not, this or not, she's right about everything. And she said, oh, yeah, clear sales message. Like, okay, we need to buy the domain name. That's it. Now, retrospectively, from a structural, technical point of view, I understand just how powerful that name is and why it works so well. But yeah, at the start, I was like, sounds good. We'll just pick that one then. But yeah, it served me very well.
There was definitely a genius in there, and collaboration is what I'm hearing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. She's not here. No, it's fine. It's fine.
I could learn that before to make sure we all. I joke. But with that being said, 12 years in the sales industry, starting from such a vulnerable place. And I love the fact that you mentioned that, because I think a lot of the times people say, well, I didn't have a good role model, so this is my story. Whereas a lot of times from everyone in the world, just regardless of what their role model is, we inherit a blueprint. And it could be a blueprint of what we want to replicate, or a blueprint of what we would like to not replicate to help us navigate life. Yeah. So in 12 years, I'm sure there have been a lot of learning opportunities, i.e. failures, pivoting, potentially
disasters,
catastrophes, trauma. It happens to the best of us, right? So during that time, what pivotal moments have there been that have helped shape the career that you have now and the person that you are now, and achieving sustainable success? Because I know it's not a linear journey.
No, it's not a linear journey. I think that the thing that really kind of powered me forwards, and it wasn't a disaster or catastrophe, it was just this kind of innate thing within me, which was just to focus on you, if I'm selling to you, and work out what do you want and what's going on for you, and just look at the context of the situation and not be afraid to say, do you know what? I don't think I can actually help you. Sorry about that. And send you away. For me, that's actually real selling, right? If I can't help you, I'm not just going to try and twist you into it because I've got bills to pay and I've got 3 kids. So, well, if I can't help you, I can't help you. And that's it. But in terms of Mercedes, and I never missed the target in 12 years. And that sounds really amazing. But I always like to point out that I worried about every single month relentlessly. So I never rolled into a month thinking, this will be fine. I was like, no. It's like, this is the month. This is it. Oh, my God. this is the money. It was horrendous. So I worried about it all the time. But I had colleagues that couldn't hit their target and I could miss mine. So it wasn't necessarily the product, which was Mercedes-Benz vehicles. And I was a key account manager doing high level business to business. I was doing about 2,000 units a year. So 2,000 vehicles a year approximately. And I never missed. But I had colleagues that couldn't hit. So it's not the product, it's how I'm dealing with people. But I did lose a couple of clients along the way, and it's not always going to work out. And it helped me actually develop this system. It's really funny because when you talk to people about it, they kind of laugh, but they tell you anyway. So, okay, Subira, if you're my client, two things are going to happen. Either you're going to buy from me, or you're going to tell me why you didn't buy from me. But you can't just not buy and disappear. That's not how it works. And in finding out why people didn't buy, I learned so much about where I was falling short and what wasn't working. And that allowed me really to grow. And it was just having that frank discussion saying, well, you bought somewhere else. So there's no pressure now. It's all off the table. But come on, what wasn't right? What didn't happen? And just leveling with people. And I just talk to everybody like an equal kind of naturally anyway. And I always have this habit of talking to people like I've known them for years, even if I've just met them. I don't know why. I'm just very comfortable talking to people. But that really helped me, that insight. And then in terms of actually my career now and starting a business, that was driven by a disaster. So I think it was 2016 or 17. I went £2 million worth of vehicles over my target. So we have a target, a stretch target on top, and then we have this bit, which is discretionary territory. And I went 2 million into discretionary territory, and I didn't get paid a bonus for that at all. Okay. And they added those numbers to my next year's target. So next year got harder and I got no benefit for it. And that was when I realized that discretionary means you're getting nothing, first of all, but also that you have to look out for yourself and nobody really cares about you. And even if you work really hard and do all the things you're supposed to do, people will still shaft you and take advantage of you. And that was when I decided I'm going to start my own business. And I kind of led a double life from there. And I ratified in my mind that if I kept hitting my target at Mercedes and I put that first, with any of the spare time after that, then I'm starting my business. And that was where it all came from, because I was just so furious that I got mistreated. And also I had kids, I had nappies to buy, all this kind of stuff. I got told off for selling too many of a particular model of Mercedes, which was hilarious. I was like, you can't sell too many of anything, but you can definitely sell too few, as I looked out to my colleagues in the office floor, who weren't hitting their target at all. And my performance was helping to pay for them. But there we go. I'm not bitter at all. No.
Healed. We have healed. You're so past it, right? But I'm sure out of that 2 million, we could have found a bonus in there. But whatever.
Yeah, cup of coffee or lunch, that'd be nice. Nothing at all. Nothing. I couldn't believe it. Even now, I've been out for like 5 or 6 years. I still can't believe they had the gall to say no. Okay.
That's crazy.
Thanks very much.
Mine kicks on like there's a diseconomy of scale here. I have literally gone past the scope of optimum. It's time to pull back.
Yeah.
Actually, onto something really pivotal. I think there's a general misconception that having a high pressure job alone creates burnout, whereas it's actually a high pressure job coupled with high stress, a high stress lifestyle that is the recipe for disaster. But what I would like to know is, how were you able to continue performing and delivering despite how highly stressed and pressured the industry was? I hear you say that, month to month was not a comfortable experience.
No, it wasn't.
But what was that reality like for you? And what was it that enabled you to keep going?
Two things, really. Three things, technically. So one of them is just being prepared. So because of what happened to me in my childhood, I have what's called hypervigilance. So I'm like always ready for anything, and I'm anticipating all. I've got a spare microphone in case this one breaks, and also, I'm ready for the nth degree of things that could go wrong. So I brought that mentality to deal with my clients. So whatever happened, I was ready for them because I'd already kind of in the chess game of my mind played out those scenarios. So I took great comfort from. There's only about 6 things that can happen. I'm prepared for all of them. And then the other one from that is, and I always think of the thing in Friends with Ross when he has a bath and throws in some Kenny G, but I like to have a bath. It's the only way I can unwind. So if I ever felt stressed, I'm like, I need to have a bath or go for a walk, and that will de-stress me. It's the only place I can just go, okay, we can just let go of everything. Yeah, woo. But it always makes me think of Ross from Friends, right? Stick on some Kenny G, have a glass of wine kind of thing. But the main thing really was just being prepared. And it's something that I talk to my clients and students about, which is you're only doing a certain number of things in your job. I don't care what you do for a living or what you sell. There's a finite number of things you're up to. If you can work out what they are and prepare and preempt for them and have templates and all this, be as ready as possible, you cannot be flustered because you're controlling all the variables. And that's what I did.
I agree with that so much. It's pretty much the principle of having a burnout-free lifestyle. So the first tenet of a burnout-free lifestyle is stress mitigation. Eliminate unnecessary stress, because that naturally increases your capacity to manage the stress that you do need to excel. Quick shortcut: stress is like fire. It can be productive and constructive when well managed, well utilized. But when mismanaged, misutilized, or worse, we don't know it's occurring, stress has potential to be catastrophic. It's just like fire. And so if we can put out the unnecessary fires, we can then manage the fires that we do know are necessary, that have more control and tend to act in a way that is... Another word for steady. Word just failed me just now. But,
well, there is a thing, there's eustress, right, which is positive stress. So although I was stressed at work, I also recognize that when things go wrong and I'm not prepared for them, I'm a fool me once kind of a person. So, okay, that's the last time that's happening then, and I'm ready for next time kind of thing. So I always looked at it in a good way. So I've just found something else I can prepare for. And I just refused to really let it get to me too much because I couldn't. But I like to just make that point because it sounds so impressive. I've never missed a target, blah, blah, blah. I'm a real person. I'm worried about every month. Don't worry. I never believe my own hope, and I never want to believe my own hype, because you see these people on YouTube and LinkedIn, other places. It drives me nuts. Yeah. Like to keep it real.
Right. This is the word I was looking for, was constant. The things
constant.
There we go. I used to be a statistician at one point. Gone are those days. But I think it is really important to say, like you said, there are different types of stress. So you can have stress that's necessary, unnecessary. You can have stress as eustress, the stuff that, the adrenaline buzz, the thrills. But you can have distress when it doesn't feel so good. So I definitely co-sign the bath thing. I definitely
I love a bath.
Or a jacuzzi, a hot tub, whatever floats your boat. I appreciate that. So I think my question for you next is, given the work you do with people, and you really are great at what you do, what advice would you give to people who need to create a personal brand for themselves? Which is essentially a selling. They need to sell themselves. What sort of things should they take into consideration when they're beginning to sell themselves, like whether it's to justify the bonus they deserve to get if they're not Mercedes-Benz, or if they're, reaching out for new clients? How can they position themselves to make sure they don't sell themselves short?
Oh, how long have you got? So many things we could talk about. So one of the first ones, in terms of justifying the price and kind of standing in your own worth, you have to remember that price or value is a fact. It's not an emotion. So I deal with mostly kind of business owners, self-employed people, and they would come to you and say, oh, here's this mug of coffee. Oh, it's not the cheapest. It's blah, blah, blah. And what we have to get to is your opinion on what something is worth is irrelevant, respectfully. It's what it's worth in the marketplace. So in the same way I'd say, that's a pen, that's a monitor, these are some headphones, blah, blah, blah. That's the price. Price is fact, not emotion. But you have to understand what something is worth to somebody. So I know what a clear sales message is worth to my clients, and I charge accordingly. If I charge for my time or whatever, I would probably charge a lot less. But what they're getting, the impact they're getting, that's the real value. So in a business scenario, it's very straightforward. In a work scenario, I guess it's still pretty straightforward. You just have to understand the impact, how replaceable you are, the cost of replacing you if you did decide to leave, etc. But it's not being afraid to stand in your own value and say, I believe this is worth that, and that's what I'm asking for. And I think one of the main reasons we don't do that is because we're afraid of rejection. So when I ask you to buy something from me or to give me that raise or whatever, if you reject it, I feel like you've rejected me. And the difference is we don't reject people in a business sense. We don't reject people. We reject offers.
Yeah.
Would you like a cup of coffee? I'm fine, thank you. Doesn't mean you don't like me. Just means you don't want a cup of coffee. You've already got one. Or you don't drink or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But that's the difference. So we reject offers, not people. And I know it's much easier said than done, but to try and kind of rationalize that actually, yeah, they're just rejecting that offer I've made them, not me. I'm still a good person. And you should look inward anyway to find your own self-worth, not outward, because that's a whole nother podcast. But standing in your value and knowing that price is fact, not emotion. And then in terms of actually going out and selling to people, couple of really important things. The first one is understanding what people are really buying. And I call this selling the destination, not the journey. And basically, if you imagine an airline advert, for example, you very rarely see a plane or a plane seat in the advert. What you see is the Eiffel Tower, Australian beach, whatever. They're trying to place you there contextually so you can experience it and imagine it, because that's what you really want. So to use a fancy term, syntax, they're changing the syntax, which is just the ordering of the conversation, because would you like a holiday is far more appealing than would you like a plane seat. So they just move the two around. So would you like a holiday? Great. You need a plane seat to do that. So whether you're selling as a business or through your company, whatever, what do your buyers really want? What are they really looking for? Because you're selling to people. Is it security? Is it pride? Is it confidence? Is it to beat the competition? Like, what are they really looking for? And once you understand that, relate your offering to that. And this isn't just to say the right thing to manipulate people, it's to connect with them. Quick example is my own business. I know most of my clients are buying confidence from me, because when you have a clear sales message, you've got an answer for everything. There's no question you could be asked about your business that you couldn't answer confidently, without notes, without preparation, looking at a roller banner behind you, whatever. So either I directly reference the word confidence, or I just use it as a theme in my communication. So sell the destination, not the journey. And then the other thing is understanding how people communicate. So I do a little quick exercise here, and it always feels like a magic trick, but it's not. So we communicate in schemas, okay? I give you information, you put it together in your head, and you come to a conclusion. So if I give you 3 pieces of information, red, sporty, and fast. Red, sporty, and fast. In your head, you put that together, you come up with a picture of a car, and if you're into cars, it's probably a Ferrari. But I didn't say that. I said red, sporty, and fast. So when we communicate, we're giving people bits of information, and they're kind of guessing and connecting the dots. And that's where even my name, clear sales message, from those 3 words, you can guess and connect the dots, and you should be in the ballpark, if not absolutely right. So when you're communicating with people, just think about what's the least clues, essentially, least clues you could give them so they can come to the conclusion in their head. It's a bit like, remember the TV show Catchphrase, where they kind of reveal the squares and you have to take a guess? It's like that. We're just guessing. So we operate in schemas, red, sporty, and fast, just those 3 words. You've got an image of that car in your head, which is far more pervasive than me actually describing the car itself. So I've saved time in communicating with you, and I've actually connected with you. So there's a couple. I've got about 410 other things, but I don't know how long you've got, to be honest. So
give us another one. Give us another. So the scenario is, and I'm making this up on the spot, James. The scenario is someone is feeling a bit stuck in their career.
Okay.
And they've heard that LinkedIn is the best social media platform for them to start creating and establishing themselves in the professional world. And they think about what they should put in their bio. What sort of things should they be trying to communicate to the world around them? What are the most important things they should try and get?
Well, there's two main things, really. So I'll do them in reverse order. So the second one, the second one is to prove that they can do it. So if I'm going to be buying from you, hiring you, employing you, whatever, I need to see proof that you can do what you claim to be able to do. So whether that's a LinkedIn recommendation, Google reviews, Trustpilot, whatever, I need as much evidence as physically possible that demonstrates you can deliver. And it has to be third party. So it has to be on a site where you can't tamper with it. I have this mantra with my clients and students: don't tell me, show me. So I could tell you I'm good at what I do, but what I'm trying to do is make you feel that by demonstrating and providing proof. Because if you come to that conclusion in your own mind, that's more compelling than me saying, I'm really good, you should hire me. So having proof, show me, don't tell me, that. And then secondarily, getting back to this selling the destination, not the journey thing. So there's a really simple template that you can use. And I know at the start of this, you said most people tell you what they do, what are you? And I play with that. So there's a template you can use to tell people what you do, because most of the time, if you meet somebody at an event, hey, what do you do? I'm a photographer. I'm a sales consultant. I'm a this, I'm a that. So if we use this template instead, I help clients to achieve benefit by method. Client is your ideal client type. and it's not a laundry list of a million of them. It's the most relevant one for the audience you're talking to. I help client to achieve benefit. So what's the end result, the destination? How do you leave people better than when you found them? By method. And that's the nuts and bolts, the boring bit really that you're really interested in. But as your buyer, I'm not, because I care about the holiday first of all. I help client to achieve benefit by method. So for me, it could be as simple as I help small business owners to improve their confidence and their sales by giving them actionable step-by-step methodology to follow to sell with kind of ethics, something of that order. So by identifying the person, how you're doing it, and what they're going to get, and in that order, that's what we're looking for. Because don't forget, we communicate in schemas, but also we tend to scan things in an F shape. So we don't read web pages or emails. We're scanning things, looking for subtitles, things that are bold, things that stand out. Or if it's on TikTok, you've got like a nanosecond before you flicked onto the next thing. So we need to have as little information as possible, and it's got to be scannable.
Yeah, I remember you saying that because I work in 3 different avenues primarily. One, I deliver talks. Another avenue, I coach people privately. And then my biggest avenue, I guess, is working with corporates directly. And I found it really difficult after your workshops. And I walked out of that session realizing what I do due to your help. And it was simply that I protect people, profit, and performance from burnout by fireproofing the careers of high performers. That essentially is what I do. But I could never have said that before our session, which is why I say you are a great role model.
Well, you had a pretty good start with fireproofing, all this other stuff. So fireproofing is really interesting because what you're doing there is you're using equivalence. You're using something we already understand and using within it. So obviously burnout, we've got these images of fire, etc. So to fireproof your career and proof as well, it's like it's 100% and it's going to save you, etc. There's just so much imagery and stuff going on there, and that works because of this whole schema thing. So fireproof, in my head, I understand what that is, and I'm applying that to what you're doing. You're already very good at this. I just helped you a little bit.
I appreciate it. It helps that I do think in visuals. So it got to the end of December last year. Like, the fireproof career. I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but that's what we do. Oh, that's really good to know. So I would love to know more about. I'm going to ear over to the entrepreneurs for this one. In terms of transitioning from being full-time to being self-employed, you said that you were sort of playing like a double agent, did you say?
Basically, yeah.
So what was that like?
A double life. Terrifying. So I was living a double life where I had 2 laptops and 2 different diaries for the day kind of thing. So I always did my Mercedes stuff first, but when I ran out of Mercedes work, then I focused on my business. And what I wanted to do really was just have a biggest safety net possible before I actually left. So I spent about 18 months living my double life, and I had about 22 paying consultancy clients in that time, and I wrote a book and did all sorts of stuff. And I got to the point where I was sort of thinking in my head, like, when is enough? Like, when am I going to feel safe enough? And I realized the answer was never. And I had a chat with this really wise old guy that I met, and he said that you're thinking that you're about to jump off like a 25-foot cliff into the world of self-employment. He said, when you do it, you look back, it's like 6 inches off the ground. Just do it. It's like that jump and the net will catch you, all this kind of cliche things, which is easy for him to say. I've got 3 kids and a mortgage and all sorts of stuff. But I committed to it and I went for it. And absolutely I've been cash flow positive and in profit from when I was full-time, from month 1, because I did the prep and I went all in on it. But yeah, absolutely terrifying. When they dropped me home from Mercedes and they took because I had a new Mercedes every 6 months, all sorts, right? Never paid for fuel. It was amazing. If you didn't know who I was, you think I'm living the dream. But I was just the most expensive car in the world because it cost me my happiness. But when they dropped me off, because they took my car off me, they dropped me off on that last day, I cried the whole way home. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm walking away from this amazing job and car and everything else. I've been here for a long time. Like, this better work. I was terrified, but it worked.
I think that's something that all entrepreneurs definitely can empathize with, because leaving financial stability to become actually reliant on yourself is definitely terrifying. I'm very grateful, similar to yourself, that when I did step out, I didn't land on my butt within the first because oh my gosh, my last company, so I started my business. Many people don't know this. I was working full-time for an organization. an awful organization, might I add. Well, awful.
Let's not name them.
Still have it to this day. I'm going to let them live. Well, I was running my business tangentially, and so I'd start my day at 3:15 in the morning. I'd be at the gym till about 5 a.m., then 5 a.m. to 5:30, get ready to start my day, 5:30 till 7:30, working on the business, 7:30 till 7 p.m. working on my day job, because I worked a 4-day week, condensed hours.
I see.
Yeah. Contract. So Fridays I had to myself, but when I say I had it to myself, I mean I had it to my business. Yeah. And so I was working like that for about 18 months. And then it got to a point where I realized that my energies were truly being wasted. It was costing me my peace, my mental health, being in that organization. Honestly, they were just horrifically racist. And so I decided that I was going to leave. And within the first month, my first client paid me more for one service than hours work. Then my last company paid me for the entire month, and I had so much more cognitive capacity to think, to move. And it doesn't mean it's been easy. Far from, really honest with people about journey in this entrepreneur life, this founder life during the global uncertainty, pandemic, and then financial crisis.
You said the P word.
I said it.
Right, stop the clock, guys. Stop the clock. She said it. Yeah.
I'm honestly not afraid of it, because 2019, I had my own personal lockdown with social anxiety. I literally couldn't leave my own home. I was socially anxious, depressed, disabled with MS. So by the time 2020 came, I was ready for the world. The world kind of quite wasn't ready for me.
Still not, but it's all right.
I don't think it ever will be, honestly. But it was really interesting times. I say that all to say that there is never a right time to go. But if something is costing you your mental health, without that cornerstone, nothing else will prevail. But
sorry, I'm not laughing at your misery. You just reminded me of something. So I know I don't look like it, but I'm really, really into rap music in a big way. My kind of mantra at the time was get happy or die trying. That was that's what I committed myself to. So I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get happy or die trying. And even if it doesn't work, I'm sure I can get a job somewhere. That's fine. But yeah, I commit to that. I was just thinking of that. Yeah, get happy or die trying.
Simple mantra, might as well, because it's the essence of everything. Even so, I was diagnosed with MS in 2019, part of my own personal lockdown. But I've been symptom-free for the last 3.5 years without medical intervention. And I can honestly say the biggest medicine that's done it is not the perfect work-life balance I had, which is what I had when I got diagnosed. What changed everything was choosing to be happy.
How about
happy that? Without exception.
Yeah.
Which is
a choice.
A lot of work. It's a choice, but it's also a lot of hard work. It's very uncomfortable to choose to be that happy, but that's a turning point.
There's so many reasons to not be happy, right? But yeah, it is a choice. And it's funny because you meet, and I was one of these people, and I still am really, but you're kind of looking for happiness, but I know it's cliche, but it is within you. So if you can't be happy where you are right now, you will never be happy. It's a bit like, if you can't manage your finances right now, even if you won the lottery, you'd still mess it all up because you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, you have to start with what you've got. And it's cliche. We've heard lots of people say that, but it's true. And I learned that myself, and I realized that. And being happy is a choice. It's a difficult choice sometimes. There's plenty of reasons to not be happy. But this takes you back to the tsunami, funny enough. So after I survived it, I met lots of people who had also survived it. And I met two different types of people. Now, I consider myself lucky to have survived it. Yeah. And as a result, thrived. My life's going really well. I met people who felt they were unlucky to have been there in the first place, and their lives fell apart because you're just looking at it through a different lens. Yeah. So they felt unlucky to have been there. Oh, there's terrible things happened to me. Yeah, it's a terrible thing, but you lived, and there's lots of people who didn't. And I looked at it as, got away with that one. Lucky to be alive. And just taking that positive slant on it makes a huge difference. It is a choice.
And I think we have to be honest about the fact it's a choice, because a lot of people find comfort in victim mode, which is so dangerous, absolutely dangerous. Yeah. And there's a saying that goes, the same water that hardens an egg softens a potato. And I truly do believe...
Or tries to kill me and take all my stuff.
That too, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's so important to say, because I think there's a level of substance. It goes back to what we were talking about before, our early lives. We do receive a blueprint and we can choose what it is we do want to have and what we don't want to have based on the examples we've seen or the experiences we've had. And I believe there's so much liberation in taking accountability.
Yeah.
There truly is so much
but it's
liberation.
scary.
Terrifying.
It's scary, isn't it? Where do you start? What do you do? I had this. I couldn't see how I could pay myself for like a month in my own business, let alone 5 or 6 years down the line, like 50, 60 months, whatever it is now. And I've never missed. And I've always paid myself more than I ever earned a Mercedes just on principle. But at the start, it's like, how's it? And I just learned and just focused on it. And you just find a way. You have to be committed to it. If you want to find it, you'll find it. And if you don't, you won't. We're getting deep now. This is great.
Oh, we really want James, make peace with Mercedes. But at the same time, it's made you make more money than you did before. So I'm kind of okay with you having that little.
I'm okay. I wouldn't drive a Mercedes if you paid me though, so it's fine. Not for a second.
But it's true, as you said, it does go deep, because you were talking before about sales and rejection. And I spoke about this recently. I did a piece for BBC Radio 1 Extra on entrepreneurs and burnout, particularly Gen Zs. It was a younger crowd. It was so funny saying that. It was a younger crowd. Millennial.
Are you saying I'm old? That's fine. Okay.
I mean, no, we're just part of the same group now.
That's it.
We're not Gen Zs. That's the group. The not Gen Z group.
Yeah. If your birth year starts with a 19, you're officially old. I think that's how it goes, right?
Yeah, you see it's a different century, which I guess it is, but even still, like, point being, the rejection piece. And I think there's something to say that when you go through your professional development, be that entrepreneurial or in a corporate world, there's a level of personal development that happens naturally. And I do really encourage people, especially if you do internalize rejection, like a lot of us do, especially if we've had maybe fraught early starts or something traumatic happen, to go to therapy. Because as you said, it's never really personal. It's usually offer. Like I heard via someone else that a prospect had gone with another organization that wasn't mine. And I know it wasn't personal to what I offer and what I do. It was purely a price thing, but I'm not going to justify that price, as you said, because what they're paying for is the return on investment, not my time. But they're also paying for the years that I spent curating this solution out of my own personal, trauma and experiences, if you will. And so I think there's something to be said to not internalize that rejection. So yeah, the conversation's gone deep, but with reason, because it's so closely aligned. Yeah, there's different worlds, our personal world and our professional world, but they're so integrated.
We've gone deep. I can make it shallow again if you want.
Go for it. Let's get back.
Going back to all these water metaphors, going back to rap music. So with being rejected and trying to do business and whatnot, don't chase them, replace them is another one of the mantras that I have. And if you know rap music, you know who sings that and what that's really about, etc. But this is about prospects. But don't chase them, replace them. Don't focus so much on trying to close people and push them to buy from you. Just have as many conversations as physically possible with as many prospects as possible, because when you talk to more people, mathematically you have a better chance. It's like buying more lottery tickets, right? So talk to more people. That's where your effort should be, because when you have more choice, there's less pressure, and pressure repels buys. If I'm talking to you now and you're the only prospect I've got and I have to sell you this month, if you don't buy, I don't know what I'm going to do. That's when I might feel inclined to lie to you or push you or do anything that's in my interest and not yours. And I could push you away as a result. If I'm speaking to like 20 people and you just have me one of the calls I'm having and you say, not for me, no problem at all. Love to speak with you. Stay in touch. There we go. It doesn't, not in an arrogant way, but it doesn't mean as much to me. It's fine. Do what's right for you. Yeah.
But it's so funny though. I know we're saying it's a different context with regards to the rap song, but it's so funny because when I first heard you say that in the session, I automatically thought about dating, because alongside of the don't chase, replace, you also said that buyers want details, non-buyers want space. And that was so profound to me, because I'm thinking in the dating world, it's exactly the same.
That's true. Isn't it? Buyers want numbers in the dating game, right? But yeah, buyers want details, non-buyers want space. That's my way. And I'm always trying to come up with these kind of very short, memorable articulations for all the different things, so it doesn't become theoretical. So my clients and students can remember it and do it in the moment of, oh, let me just look at the spreadsheet and the textbooks where you can remember what to do. If you can internalize it, you can actually use it, which is where the magic happens. But buyers want details, non-buyers want space. If you're not asking me how much I charge and when I can do it and guess what? You're probably not interested, and that's okay. And I can cut my time short with you. I say probably, it's not 100% either. There's no real kind of definitives. So if you haven't asked me the details, I could suggest it to you. So would you like to know what I charge, how long that takes? And if you say no, or you say yes, but you're kind of interested, that's fine. If you get specific, okay, now I know that you're a prospect. This is potential. But it's a big one because the amount of people, you'll see this in your DMs all the time. I've got somebody who's literally on like his 12th cold DM to me where I haven't replied to any of them. It's like, would you like me to send you my free guide? No, I wouldn't. And me not responding to other messages is my way of saying, no, thank you. Because I haven't got the energy to write to you because I'm just worried that you're going to take that as some kind of intent and you're going to then try and convince me or whatever. Yeah, don't chase me, replace me. There we go. If I had details, say, oh yeah, what's in the guide? Maybe I'm interested. There we go. Sorry, I get very animated about it. It annoys me.
No problem. This is what we're here to do. But it's interesting because as someone who then is self-employed, for example, you're financially reliant on yourself, and there is that pressure behind it because it's all on you. You don't really have a team. It's navigating that. So I've come to somewhat of a hybrid. In that, first of all, after your workshop, I sent out a post on LinkedIn that just was a mass apology on my page, going, if you have received, like a message that felt really cold and stale from me, because I was working with a VA at one point. I was like, I just apologize. Nice. If you get a message from me, it's because I genuinely want a conversation with you. I want to find out what's going on. And so for now, what I do is I still reach out, even though I haven't responded, because I've had one person respond after 2 years, and we had a great meeting and the ball started rolling. So for some of them, I see them as planting seeds, but I no longer, so my musical reference is Destiny's Child's Bugaboo. I'm no longer a bugaboo, like desperately trying to be like, hey, let's talk. I'm like, look, this is what I do. This is who I am. You've never heard of me before, but I'm here. And I think for me in particular, being a burnout specialist, after the pandemic, that's twice I've used the word.
I know, twice, guys, twice. That's right. I'm talking to a wall. I don't know what I'm doing.
It's got that MI6 there. She's done it now. It's really important for me to showcase who I am because I'm a small fish in a very huge ocean in the work that I do. Yeah. Because it's become very popular all of a sudden to mention burnout, but I'm going to proudly say, because I don't believe in false humility. So before you said that you're great at what you do, you are. I am also great at what I do in burnout, in that I've not heard other burnout quote unquote specialists differentiate between being run down and being burnt out. So a lot of the employee wellbeing programs that are pushed out there, brought to the forefront, are great, but they're dealing with the wrong issue. So I definitely kept that back in my mind that, buyers want details, non-buyers want space, but I'm still planting seeds. You're still going to know who the corporate is. I'm just not going to be a bugaboo about it.
You can still outreach people. You can still even follow people up. But you just got to be careful and not, if you're not getting anything back at all, then maybe checking in and touching base and asking if I won that free guide. Maybe I don't. That's all right. But some people, and I've had clients, funny enough, the first kind of 3 weeks of being in business, I pitched somebody, and then again about 2 years later, you go, oh, I'm ready now. So where were you? And I've really needed you when I started my business. Never mind. But it takes some people an awfully long amount of time to buy and to move forward. I closed a guy just a few days ago, and I always make this joke. It's funny. He said he'd seen over 70 of my videos. I said, oh mate, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. He said, oh no, you're kidding, I love them, I binge watch them. Oh dude, you should talk to my wife. She'd just think you're the saddest guy ever. There we go. But my social media posts help to follow people up because you see me, you hear me. Hopefully I'm giving you something of value, entertaining or whatever. So you consider yourself followed up because you've thought of me. That's it. It's as simple as that. And I also use the word value there. And it really bugs me. I define value as anything that's going to move your buyer a step closer to where they want to be, but not to the detriment of you of buying your service, because you hear people talk about value all the time and it's like bespoke and holistic. It's like, what does it really mean? But that's what value is to me. Anything that's going to just inch you that bit closer to where you need to be, that's value.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because a lot of us, we don't sell, or maybe it's just me, we don't sell because we don't want to give away too much or say too much, or we don't know how to position ourselves. But I'd like to know your take on that, because you really do put out a lot of great, valuable videos that somehow, I don't know how you do it, but you keep it like 60 seconds, thereabouts.
A lot of practice. So that started because I had a friend I used to work with Mercedes, and they were talking about video, and I said, I'm just terrified of video. So, but you need to do it. Video is the way forward. People need to hear you talk. So I pinky promised that person, because I'm a grown adult, and a thousand videos later, I've got quite good at it because I just went for it. So same with public speaking. I was terrified when I first spoke to people in real life. I spoke about 50 people. I had the thing where you get dry mouth and you can't control all of it. It was horrendous. And I just knew the more I spoke, the better I would get. So my videos have got better because I'm just super comfortable and I know the subject matter I'm talking about, and I can generally think on my feet anyway. But in terms of the volume that I put out, I try and do kind of once a day across a lot of different platforms. It's to follow people up and to kind of be there. There's something called propinquity, which is exposure. So if you're more exposed to me, you're going to hopefully feel like I'm a familiar face, essentially. Yeah. But the line for me, and I had to work this out myself in the beginning, is I'm telling you what you need to do. I'm not necessarily telling you how to do it. So clear sales message. Yeah, you should have a great name like that because of schemas, blah, blah, blah. But you don't know, do you? I can't tell you specifically how to do it. That's what you have to pay for, because for you, it'd be different, blah, blah, blah. That's where you get into the details. But the concept of having a good name or doing this or doing that, what you need to do versus how to do it, that's the difference from my experience.
The whole thing about information is free, implementation has a fee.
Oh, I like that. And things that rhyme and things that rhyme kind of are more meaningful, right? There's a thing called the rhyme as reason effect. So if something rhymes, we trust it more because things don't just rhyme by accident in nature necessarily.
Maybe this is why rap music's so influential. I've missed my mark here. Just this is kind of
well, I realize. Come.
Sorry, quick funny story. I was talking to my older sister the other day. She said while she's studying at Cambridge, there was a guy everyone knew was going to get a first in like neuroscience or something, but he didn't have an internal dialogue. So what he used to do is all the entire Cambridge medical syllabus to Biggie and Tupac, and that's how. I thought that was so cool.
It's different. It's definitely different.
I have a question for you, James.
Go for it.
So I personally don't believe in work-life balance. I think it's a task that is impossible. It's like trying to live on a tightrope and juggle everything in the air. What I do, however, believe is harmony. So work-life harmony, work-life integration. In fact, work-life satisfaction, creating satisfaction in your personal and your professional life as separate entities. And I'd love to know how you've been able to create work-life satisfaction and what's that continuous journey like? Because I think it does change as we evolve, as we grow, as life changes. But what does that look like to you?
For me, it's about that. It's about diary freedom. So I get to choose what I do and don't do. So even this afternoon, my wife has WhatsApped me an image of all the dates for the school for sports days and this and that. So I'll go in and block them all out and I'll run my business around that, because I've got a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they're not going to be 9, 7, and 3 for very long. So I'll prioritize them to a point, of course, but I'll put them first. So I have that kind of, I know you didn't say balance, so I'm going to say balance. I have that kind of balance because I'm giving them what they need, and I'm setting, I like to think I'm setting a good example for them. They can tell me when they're a bit old and they understand what's going on. But then in my work, it's utterly fulfilling. I love the challenge of what I do and being creative and the wonderful people that I meet, etc. And so I'm very fulfilled. And this is why I call my job, my work is finding my place in the world. So I love what I do. So I'm completely fulfilled there. Don't tell my clients, but I do it for free. So I'm happy there. And then I make sure I spend time with the kids. So I'm happy there. And then that's kind of how I do it. But if I had a real job, I would be unhappy in the job, and I wouldn't be able to make any of those appointments because I'd run out of days of holiday.
I hear that. It's interesting though, because earlier this year I hosted a talk for the Economist Impact on creating
So many
sustainable
cool
work.
names. I love this. I wish I had these names. I was talking to Barack Obama the other day, actually, and what he said was, yeah.
It was Matthew Knowles last week, actually, but it's okay, you know, whatever. Oh, that's hilarious. Actually, I think it was your workshop where we was talking about name dropping, and I said to you, the question I asked was like, I find it so difficult to name drop, but because
Do
it's
you?
part of reality, we know now.
You're doing well.
Yes.
But it's really compelling, because if these massive companies are working with you, etc., it says a lot about who you are and the caliber of work that you do, right? It's impressive. I know I'm making light of it, but it's impressive. Very
I
impressive.
appreciate it. I've been incredibly fortunate. I think part of that is just I just wanted to go big. I didn't know that I was going big. I was just contacting them like, hey, let's have a conversation. So it really does work. But it's interesting, the point I was making, in that actually for some people, because I think we're kindred spirits in a way, in that
We talk a lot. It's fine.
You like to have a bit more control over our career progression, i.e.,
Yes.
if they're going to skip us with not paying the bonuses that we deserve, we're going to go and do our own thing. But entrepreneurialism is not for everybody. It's also not a burnout solution. Let me make that very clear. Very clear. But with that being said, so I was hosting a fireside chat at the Economist conference with the COO of Verizon. She was based in New York. And she's been working at Verizon for like 20 years, if I remember off the top of my head. And she said something, was talking about the work-life satisfaction integration point. And she said she controls her calendar. She is a wife, a mother of two, still happily married, made sure to stress that point. And it's funny, right? And so many of the women in the audience laughed. And I said, I'm really glad that she mentioned that. Right? So how do you do that after being the COO of Verizon, one of the biggest, tech companies? And she said she controls her calendar. She prioritizes, like you said, her calendar. So she knows she's got her event coming up, whether that's her husband, her children. She ensures that she works in a way that she can get the work done ahead of time, or be able to delegate and communicate with those who are going to be part of a project, for example, when she won't be around, so she's not being lost out. So I think there is a level of time richness that does come when you are an entrepreneur. Also, a level of time richness that exists when you're still figuring things out, but it's still something that's attainable in the corporate world if you're able to take control of your career, be empowered, and create a professional brand that precedes you, so you can have certain liberties. For example, before I had LinkedIn, I was an investment analyst. I'd go to interviews and I would say very clearly to the interviewer that I don't like being micromanaged. There's no question too stupid that I will not ask in order to get the work done. So from the outset, I let them know how I like to work, what I'll do in order to make sure things happen, and work in a way that meant I can still show up to the life responsibilities or things that I had going on at the time. So I think there's definitely a little bonus being self-employed, but it's very much possible if you're in the corporate world. Just got to finesse the situation, got to sell yourself.
The way I look at it is we're taking all the risk of, there's no guarantee I'm ever going to sell anything to anybody ever again, and I'm paying for everything. So there's a huge risk there. So if I'm going to take that on, I should be able to go to the Odeon on a Tuesday afternoon and watch a film, right? Or do whatever I want and have the time freedom as a result, because I'm taking on that risk.
And, absolutely. That's why I love this space. Also, I thought I was a bad employee, but it turns out I'm just a great entrepreneur.
Oh, I like that. I'm unemployable. It's fine. I don't like being told what to do.
I just got to spin it. So when people say that I'm easily distracted, which they often said at school, I now have spun it to I'm easily inspired.
I love it.
James, thank you so much. I have one final question for you. I'm a huge believer that gratitude is more than just a fluffy thing we can do. It genuinely can change our perception. If we focus on a positive, it changes our lens on how we see the world, which means we can change how we perceive a situation. If we can change how we perceive it, we can change our reality. And is there a cooler superpower than being able to change your own reality?
No, definitely not. I was trying to work out if that's a rhetorical question or not. I've got that knack of asking a question. I don't know if it's real or rhetorical. I don't think there is. Creating your own reality is the one, right?
Yeah, teleportation. But I think reality change is a bit more attainable. But teleportation would be amazing.
That would be cool. I'm just, even like 5 or 6 years in, I'm still just deliriously happy that I do work I love and I don't have to work for Mercedes anymore. So That's my superpower, just being happy.
It's such a great one to have. So with that being said, what is one thing in your personal life and one thing in your professional life that you're incredibly grateful for?
Professional life, I'm incredibly grateful for the skill that I seem to have, where I can hear anything you want complicated and I can just simplify it in a heartbeat. It's really weird. It's just a natural skill that I have, and that's it. In my personal life, I have to say my wife and kids, right? Because she might be listening to this. So yeah, my wife and kids. The long-suffering Mrs. Clear Sales message. Bless it.
I absolutely love that, James. Thank you so much. I have to say, before we finish up, if you enjoyed this episode, please follow James on LinkedIn. He is on a mission right now to have 500 LinkedIn recommendations. So if you found this episode helpful, informative, profound, please go follow him, send him a recommendation. Where are you at the moment? 472? What's the last count?
If you want to totally date this podcast and not make it evergreen, I'm at 472. That's right. I got 28 to go.
We need the urgency behind the action. So if you would like to be one of the 28 people who can make it 500 and then just continue the number, let's make it happen.
The next goal is 1,000 after that. It just doubles. So there we go.
There we go. James, thank you ever so much for your time today. Really enjoyed
Thank you for having me.
conversation.
Me too. Thank you.